I'm a UVM student. I was talking to you before. I'm sure you noticed that. But I'm going to try to keep this civil.
Heckling, yes.
Yeah. But I'm just going to hope you respond in a way that's not so just conservative talking point and more of a conversation way. Hopefully. Maybe?
Sure.
Okay. So before there was a question about like Native American communities and treaties and stuff like that. And you were talking about how historically Native Americans have been kind of like screwed over by the US government and stuff like that. Don't you think that that history will impact how Native Americans live today and make it more difficult to succeed in America? Don't you think that would influence that?
Well, I suppose a question I'll ask back at you. We've made tremendous accommodations, such as sovereignty of Native American land, an entire department of the federal government dedicated just solely to that. Do you recognize that there's been great efforts to try to accommodate that?
I recognize those efforts, but obviously they haven't worked.
So why haven't they worked?
Because it's either not enough or the way that we're doing it is, like, we need to treat it more as an equity thing instead of just saying, oh, it's a culture, like, instead of blaming it on people's, like, individual working and, like, change it societally and help them in a way that actually matters.
So you do know that there's universal health care at Native American reservations, right?
Yeah, but it's not very good because they don't have access to...
Because it's socialistic.
No. They have universal health care in plenty of European countries, and it works just fine. The flaws with the Native American...
So I'm curious, how did Vermont's experiment in universal health care go?
I'm not from Vermont, so I don't know these things.
I didn't hear your response. Say that again.
I'm not from Vermont, so I don't know these things. I moved here like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I still can't hear what you said. Say it one more time. You're wearing a mask. It's kind of hard. Can you say it again?
I moved here like 2 months ago. I'm not from Vermont, so I don't know these things.
Right. So Vermont tried single payer. They had to abolish it. It was a total disaster. So look, I think the best way to help Native American communities is to help all people through empowerment and education. Instead, we tried a heavy-handed government approach of intervention of the Bureau of Native American Affairs, of universal health care. And if you want to go see a socialist dystopia, go to a Native American reservation. Maybe you have. Maybe you worked on Native American reservations before. I've been to plenty. They're depressing. They're government addicted, unfortunately, in more ways than one. They're very, very corrupt. And this is something I want to ask you. Would you self-identify as a socialist? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Ish.
I'm not a liberal. I'm more social. I'm
okay.
Socialist and liberal are different words, and I think conservatives confuse that a lot. They're completely different things. Okay.
No, we don't. So I'm just curious, as someone who would say you're a socialist, what would be a country you think works well that's a socialist country?
There are no socialist countries right now.
There are no has there ever been a socialist country?
Truly socialist? No.
Okay. So your worldview is on something that's never existed and currently doesn't exist?
Is it a bad thing to be like pro-change?
Okay, so just so we're clear, the type of change you're advocating is horrifying. But so it's never existed, doesn't, and so I would say Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, formerly Vietnam, the Soviet Union, those are not and were not socialist countries?
The disastrous effects in those countries were directly contributed by U.S. intervention. There were multiple coups done by the CIA in those countries.
So let's take. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I'm just curious. And so, how on earth did Fidel Castro taking over Cuba have anything to do with U.S. intervention?
There was plenty of sanctions. Economically, Cuba was completely cut off. There was no. They tried to assassinate him plenty of times. There were so many things.
The fact that they're communist.
Yeah. We
had what to do with that?
We didn't have anything to do with that, but after a communist regime took over, they had
Let me ask you another. So first of all, Zimbabwe was not communist?
Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara.
Say that again?
Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso. Before he was assassinated, he was actually
How about Mugabe? He wasn't a communist? How about Joseph Stalin? He wasn't a communist?
He called himself
How about Mao Zedong? He wasn't a communist?
Yeah.
Pol Pot?
plenty of terrible people have called themselves plenty of different names. North Korea,
Oh, so you get
North
to be the
Korea
judge.
calls
Got
themselves
it. Right. So I just want to make sure we complete the point. You believe in something that doesn't exist, has never existed, and even though the people that call themselves the things that you believe, you say they weren't really that, which is the most important point. Socialism is always judged against an impossible utopia, and they judge markets against a reality. And here's the truth of the matter. That markets, which you enjoy comfortably in Western society, is the most proven affluent creating machine in human history. And I would just challenge you to do one thing. Please stop believing in a utopian nightmare and start looking at things around you that are good, that are true, that are beautiful, that work, and are consistent with the natural law. You'll be a much happier person if you do that.
You said socialism is non-American, so what do you think is pro-American?
Well, let's define what socialism is, right? Socialism is the government confiscation of private property. It tends to be the rule of the few, not the many, even though they profess to say it's the rule of the many. But the American, let's just say, economic tradition is private property rights, markets with proper restraint, entrepreneurship, the ability to flourish, trade, create new products. Socialism disincentivizes almost all those things. Socialism is built largely on envy and greed. And hilariously, the people that push for socialism, the rank and file, they don't realize that socialism actually just creates an oligarchy. It doesn't actually create a strong middle class, what they allege, to want.
So do you believe in taxes?
Ideally 10% across the board. Yeah.
Okay, so you believe in the confiscation of people's private property?
At some point it depends on if it's private property income or if it's necessary to fund government services.
But that's still a confiscation with a gun through police if you don't.
I fully acknowledge a moderate form of something I hate in order to fund a government, police, firefighters, EMT is necessary.
But that's still government confiscating
private
property,
yes.
which you said was socialism.
Yes, but have you ever called the cops?
No, I don't believe.
Okay,
I don't like cops. They don't like me.
Okay, you ever gone to hospital?
No.
Okay, well, one day when you go to a hospital or you use a social service you
I'm
paid
saying
for.
you define socialism as a confiscation of private property, and you're saying that you believe in taxes, which is a confiscation of private wages.
Let me go for the unreasonable confiscation of private property, the elimination of private property altogether. You see, this is very sloppy intellectual thinking, that just because we want a police force, a border patrol, and we want clean streets, all of a sudden we become a socialist.
But those are still socialism.
Not every form of government is
property.
Socialism. Would you acknowledge that?
No, I don't.
Okay, then
when does socialism begin and when does it end? And I'm saying you're saying that some level
of socialism. It's
not
like an entrance into
Narnia. If you're saying
I'm all of a sudden
socialism is
here.
anti-American, I'm saying
it's a
socialism
spectrum.
is a part of America.
Okay, so you want to know when socialism begins and when it ends?
Yeah.
When you leave the free state of Florida and you enter the unfree state of New York.
What's the tax rate in Florida then?
Zero.
No,
the income tax in Florida is zero.
But you still have to pay federal taxes. So if you have to pay taxes at all, it sounds like Florida's a socialist state.
So are you trying to say America's currently socialist?
Yes. That's
okay,
what I'm saying.
I would agree. We're going more in that direction. So.
Okay, wait, you just said that America is socialist, but you said Florida's not socialist. So Florida's part of America. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, but the federal project right now is more socialist than it is free market. Yeah. So to be even more clear, the closer you get towards the government owning a majority of your labor and your goods, the further and further closer you get to socialism. California is that.
Yeah.
Now, I would love for the federal government to get rid of FICA tax, to get rid of, the excess income tax. I've been clear. I think 10% across the board, fine. We need a military. You might not agree. We need a police force. We need a border patrol. We need basic social services that are a safety net, not a hammock. But I do not believe in this over-the-top type taxation. If you want to talk about other types of taxation that everyone here is paying, it's inflation.
What's your thoughts on universal health care?
I'm against universal health care.
Why?
Yeah. Look at the many trials in universal health care we have in this country. Waiting lines, waiting lists. Universal health care sounds good, but it lowers the accessibility, it increases wait lines, it increases costs. And by the way, we're already close to a universal health care system right now. You can just walk into an emergency room and you will get care. It's not good care, but you will get care. Okay. And Medicaid is a form of universal health care.
Okay. Then
Medicaid, which is health care for the poor. Go ahead.
Then what are your thoughts on people who don't have a lot of money, who break their arm or have to go to the hospital? The ambulance costs a ton of money just to be sent to the hospital. One night in a bed is insane amount of money. Right. So what are your thoughts on people? What are they going to do? What are people like who are underrepresented, don't have money, have worked their asses off every single day, and yet they have to give up their houses, give up loans just so they can get basic necessities? Isn't that like what universal healthcare is aimed to mitigate?
It is aimed, you're right, it is, but it doesn't mitigate. Here's my agreement with the advocates of universal healthcare. If you go to a hospital, they'll never give you a menu of prices. You have no idea what anything costs. Do you agree? There's no transparency. If you go to Chipotle, they'll tell you how many calories are in your burrito and exactly how much things cost. It is secrecy of pricing. These private-public partnerships that raise prices endlessly, that have destroyed lives. Medical debt is a huge problem in this country. And so, yeah, the solution was not, trying to have people compulsory have to take on health insurance through universal health care. It's a lot deeper and more sophisticated than that.
Then can't you make the argument again that the reason that we have such bad public health care is because private health care has such a strong hold on society and American society?
Well, part of American health care is awful. Part of it is great. The problem is most people can't access the great parts. So what is great about American healthcare? We have the most innovations. We have the most sophisticated life-saving surgery. If you have a heart attack right now and you have to go into the CAT room here locally, they'll probably save your life, right? The standard of care here, that's not the case, by the way, in like Southeast Asian countries. Like you might live, you might not, okay? The problem is cost and accessibility. And so the question is, do you want to sacrifice the quality of our care for accessibility? And if the answer is yes, then be ready to wait 5.5 hours